The night sky burned red over the ruined alien city. Smoke rose from the shattered buildings, mixing with the cold rain that fell from above. The air was thick with the smell of fire and dust, and far in the distance, the sound of gunfire echoed. Through the empty streets, somewhere in the rubble, a small figure moved slowly. Almost invisible in the shadows, she was an alien girl, no older than 12 by human years. Her skin was a pale shade of silver, and her large eyes reflected the faint glow of the fires. She limped through the broken streets, clutching a strange metallic pendant in her hand. Her clothes were torn, her knees scraped, and her breath came in sharp gasps. Every few seconds, she glanced behind her, as if something or someone was following her in another part of the city. A squad of human soldiers moved cautiously through the wreckage. They were tired, wet, and low on supplies. The squad leader, Sergeant Cole, raised his hand to signal a stop. "We sweep this block and move out before the enemy drones return," he ordered, his voice low but firm. The soldiers nodded, spreading out into the shadows. Rifles ready. It was Private Harris who heard at first a faint sound. Like a muffled whimper, he froze, scanning the dark alley beside a collapsed building. "There's something here," he whispered into his comm. The rest of the squad turned their attention toward him, moving carefully in his direction under a pile of fallen beams and cracked stone. The girl crouched low, hugging her knees, when Harris stepped closer. She flinched, pressing herself back into the rubble. Her eyes were wide, filled with both fear and defiance. "She's just a kid," Harris said softly, lowering his rifle. Sergeant Cole didn't move, his eyes narrowing. "Or bait," he muttered. "Enemy's been using civilians to lure us out." Before they could decide, a faint, buzzing sound filled the air. Enemy recon drones were sweeping the area, their red lights glowing through the rain. The girl's breathing grew faster, her hands trembling around the pendant. Then, without warning, she stumbled forward and ran straight toward Harris. He caught her instinctively, and she clung to him with desperate strength. "Please," she whispered in a shaky voice. "Don't let them find me." Cole hesitated only a second before giving the order, "All right, we take her, move." The squad rushed through the streets, keeping to the shadows as the drones passed overhead. Rain soaked their uniforms, and the city seemed endless. The girl didn't speak again, but her grip on Harris never loosened when they finally reached an abandoned shelter. They set her down. She sat quietly, her head lowered. Cole crouched in front of her, studying her carefully. "What's your name?" he asked. The girl shook her head slowly, refusing to answer. "Where are your parents?" Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she looked away. One of the soldiers, Corporal Vega, stepped forward. "You're safe now, kid," she said gently. "No one here will hurt you." But the girl's reply was barely a whisper. "They can't know who I am," she said, her voice trembling, "or who my father is." The squad exchanged uneasy glances. Those words raised more questions than answers. Cole leaned in closer, his voice low and steady. "Why? Who's your father?" The girl's eyes glistened with fear as she shook her head again. "If I tell you, we'll all die," she said, before anyone could speak. The sound of footsteps and metallic clicks echoed from the street outside. The enemy was close. Cole motioned for silence, and the squad readied their weapons. The girl pressed herself into the wall, her pendant glowing faintly in the dark. She closed her eyes as if bracing for something terrible. The footsteps passed by, fading into the distance. The squad relaxed slightly, but the tension in the air remained. Cole gave the order to rest for a few minutes before moving again, but his mind was still on the girl's words. He had seen many strange things in this war, but this child and her secret felt different, dangerous. As the soldiers took turns keeping watch, the girl sat alone in the corner, staring at the pendant in her hands. It wasn't just an ornament, Cole realized. was some kind of device, and whatever it meant. It was tied to the reason she was being hunted. Outside, the rain kept falling, covering the city in a cold, endless silence. But inside the shelter, the squad's thoughts were far from calm. They had just taken in a child whose very identity could change the course of the war, and none of them knew if they had just saved her or doomed themselves. The rain did not stop for the next 2 days. The human squad kept moving through the ruined countryside, carrying the alien girl with them. She was small and light, easy to carry. But her silence weighed heavier than any of their gear. She never asked for food, never complained, and never told them her name. It was as if she had been trained to survive without drawing attention. Sergeant Cole kept his eyes on her, watching the way she studied everything. She would glance at their weapons, their formation, even the way they read maps. It was not the curious look of a child seeing something new. It was the careful gaze of someone who understood the value of every detail. This made him uneasy, but also impressed him. Private Harris had become her unofficial guardian. She stayed close to him, always walking beside him when they moved. Sometimes he would try to talk to her, telling simple stories about Earth or joking about army food. She would listen, sometimes even smile faintly, but she never opened up about herself. The only time she spoke more than a few words was when danger was near. On the third night, they set up camp in the ruins of an old human outpost. The wind howled through broken walls, and the squad huddled close to a small fire. The girl sat between Harris and Corporal Vega, her pendant hidden under her torn clothes. Vega tried again to ask, "What's that necklace for?" "Looks important." The girl looked at her sharply, then softened her expression. "It's all I have left," she said quietly. She did not explain further, and Vega did not press her. After the meal, the soldiers began sharing stories to keep morale up. One told of his family farm back home. Another joked about his worst mission. Then, without warning, the girl began humming softly. It was a strange, haunting tune, unlike anything they had heard before. Private Harris froze, his face turning pale. "I've heard that before," he whispered, his voice shaking slightly. The others looked at him, confused. "From where?" Cole asked. "From a prisoner we captured last year." Harris said. He was important, very important. The girl stopped humming instantly, her eyes darting to Harris. Her lips tightened, and she turned away, as if regretting she had made a sound at all. Cole's mind began racing. If the song was linked to a high-ranking alien, then the girl might be connected to someone powerful. But was that good or bad for them? He couldn't yet tell. Over the next few days, they moved deeper into the contested zones. The girl started proving useful in ways no one expected. She warned them of patrol routes before they reached them. She pointed out mines and traps hidden in the dirt. More than once, her guidance saved them from walking into an ambush. Still, her silence about her identity remained. One afternoon, while crossing a muddy road, Cole noticed her flinch at the sight of a burnt-out alien transport. Her eyes lingered on its markings, a crest shaped like a twin star. When asked about it, she muttered something under her breath in her native language. Harris caught only one word, but it was enough to raise alarm. It was a name that belonged to one of the most feared alien warlords still alive. That night, the squad debated quietly while she slept near the fire. Vega argued that they deserved to know the truth. Harris said forcing her might break her trust. Cole listened, then simply said, "We keep her safe until we know for sure. No one outside this squad hears about her." It was a dangerous decision, but the alternative, turning her over to command, felt wrong. The girl woke just before dawn, long before anyone else. She walked to the edge of the camp, staring into the mist-covered hills. Her small hands tightened around the pendant, and for a moment, her expression was not that of a child, was the expression of someone carrying the weight of an entire war. When Harris approached, she quickly looked Down, you were awake all night?" he asked. She nodded slightly. "Bad dreams," she said simply, though her eyes told him it was more than that. By the end of the week, she was moving like one of them. She understood hand signals, kept pace with the slowest soldier, and knew when to duck for cover without being told. It was as if she had been raised in a war zone her whole life. Still, Cole could not shake the feeling that every step they took brought them closer to whatever secret she was hiding. On the 8th day, while they rested in the ruins of an alien village, she sat apart from the group, tracing patterns in the dirt with a stick. When Vega asked what she was drawing, she looked up briefly and said, "Home." The drawing was not of any normal house. It was of a fortress, a massive structure, with walls taller than any building the squad had ever seen. Inside the walls was the same twin star crest they had seen before. Before Vega could question her, the girl wiped the drawing away with her hand. Her eyes shifted to the horizon, as if she sensed something coming, and she was right. Minutes later, the sound of distant engines rolled across the hills, enemy patrols moving fast. The squad packed up immediately, ready to move, but Cole noticed the girl was not afraid. She was focused, almost as if she had been expecting them. The squad had been on the move since sunrise. The air was heavy with mist. Hiding the mountains in the distance, the alien girl walked beside Private Harris, her small steps quick to keep up with the long strides of the soldiers. She still said little, but Cole had noticed how her eyes kept scanning the terrain. It was the same sharp, calculating look she had shown when they first found her by midday. They reached the outskirts of an abandoned alien settlement. Half the buildings were collapsed, and strange metal shards were scattered in the dirt. Cole ordered the squad to search the area for supplies. The girl stayed close to Harris, watching silently as they moved through the ruins. She seemed tense, as if she knew something about this place. Inside one of the larger buildings, the walls were covered in alien symbols. The girl froze when she saw them. Her hand went instinctively to her pendant, and her breathing became shallow. Harris noticed. "You've been here before, haven't you?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer, but her fingers began pressing the pendant in a pattern. Small clicks came from the device. Then, a faint blue light blinked from it. At first, Harris thought it was harmless, but Sergeant Cole's voice came sharp from across the room. "Stop. What did you just do?" Before the girl could reply, Corporal Vega's unit crackled with interference. A strange, encrypted signal was being picked up. It wasn't from their usual channels. The comms officer, Burke, pulled out his scanner, and his eyes widened. "This signal's military grade," he said, "and it's coming from her pendant." The room went silent, except for the faint hum of the device. Cole stepped forward, his expression dark. "You just told someone where we are," he said. The girl's hands trembled, but she held the pendant tightly. "They were going to find us anyway," she whispered. I needed to send a message." Burke's scanner continued to work, translating bits of the signal. It wasn't random, it had a clear destination. "Sir, this is bad," Burke said. "The signal's going straight to an alien command frequency. One reserved for high-ranking officers." Cole's eyes narrowed. He had suspected she was important, but this confirmed it. She had direct access to top military channels. "Who are you contacting?" he demanded. The girl shook her head, refusing to answer. "If you don't tell me, we're cutting that signal now," Cole warned, her lips pressed into a hard line. "You can't," she said softly. "If you break it, they'll think I'm dead." The squad exchanged tense glances. This was no ordinary child. Vega took a step closer, lowering her voice. "Kid, if you trust us, you need to explain." But the girl's eyes only darted to Harris, as if silently asking him to protect her. Suddenly, Burke's equipment beeped again. "They've replied," he said, his tone urgent. Cole gestured for him to put it on speaker. A distorted alien voice came through, speaking in a language most of them couldn't understand. But the girl did. She closed her eyes, listening. Then replied in the same tongue, her voice low and steady. When she was done, the signal cut off, and the pendant's light went dark. Cole's patience snapped. "What did you say? Who was that?" She opened her eyes slowly, her expression unreadable. "It was a warning," she said. "For you." Harris frowned. "A warning? About what?" "They know you have me now," she said. "And they're coming." An uneasy silence settled over the squad. Cole ordered them to pack up and move immediately. The girl walked quietly between Harris and Vega, her gaze fixed ahead. No one spoke. But the tension in the air was thick. Every shadow seemed like it could hide an enemy. 2 hours later, they stopped in a narrow canyon to rest. Burke kept glancing at the girl, shaking his head. That frequency. You don't get access to it unless you're related to someone very high up, he muttered. Harris didn't answer, but his mind was racing. If she was the daughter of a toe-pranking alien, it explained the bounty, the fear, and the secrecy. But it didn't explain why she seemed just as afraid of certain alien factions as she was of the humans. That night, the squad camped under a rocky overhang. The girl sat close to the fire, staring into the flames. Harris finally asked the question. That had been burning in his mind. Why didn't you tell Cole the truth? She didn't look at him, because the truth would kill you, she said simply. Her voice was so calm that it made him shiver. In the distance, the howl of alien beasts echoed through the canyon. Cole doubled the watch shifts, knowing something was closing in. The girl pulled her knees to her chest, her pendant now cold and silent. Whatever message she had sent, it had changed everything. The squad was no longer just moving through enemy territory. They were being hunted as the firelight flickered. Against the canyon walls, the girl's eyes caught the glow for a brief moment. Harris saw something in them. It wasn't just fear. It was the heavy knowledge of someone who carried a dangerous secret, one that could decide the fate of not only their squad, but the entire war. The squad moved at first light. The cold air of the canyon clung to their uniforms, and the ground was slick with morning dew. No one spoke as they followed Sergeant Cole through narrow passes and rocky slopes. The alien girl walked between Private Harris and Corporal Vega. Silent but alert, her pendant was hidden under her shirt. But everyone knew it was the reason enemies were coming. By midday, the mist had lifted, revealing open plains ahead. That was when Burke picked up the first broadcast. It was in the alien language, but the tone needed no translation. It was an open bounty. Through the static, they heard numbers. Harris looked to Vega. That's a lot of money, he said quietly. Vega's jaw tightened. Enough to make anyone come after her? Cole called the squad to a stop. They've put a price on her head, he said grimly. Every mercenary, bounty hunter, and rebel in this sector will be looking for us. The girl stood still, her eyes lowered. I told you, she said softly. They won't stop. They moved faster after that, cutting across uneven terrain and avoiding open ground. But by evening, the first signs of pursuit appeared: tracks in the dirt, disturbed rocks, and the faint smell of smoke from campfires not their own. Cole ordered them to change direction. Heading toward a dense forest to lose their trail, the girl said nothing. But Harris noticed her scanning the tree line, counting steps in her head. It was like she had been trained for this. Night fell quickly in the forest. The canopy blocked the moonlight. Leaving them in near darkness, they set up a silent camp. No fire, no talking. The girl sat close to Harris, clutching her knees. You're not afraid, are you? He whispered. She shook her head slowly. I've been hunted before. It was some time after midnight when the first attack came. A sharp, whistling sound cut through the air, followed by the hiss of smoke grenades. Figures moved between the trees fast, silent, and armed. Cole barked orders. defensive positions. Harris, get her to cover. Harris grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her behind a fallen log. Blaster fire lit up the forest, flashes of red and blue cutting through the darkness. One of the attackers lunged from the shadows before Harris could raise his weapon. The girl moved. She ducked low, grabbed a rock, and struck the attacker's knee with surprising precision. The figure stumbled, and Harris finished him with a quick shot. He looked at her, startled. "Where did you learn that?" She didn't answer, only pointed deeper into the forest. "They're flanking," she said, her tone calm but urgent. Cole adjusted their defense based on her warning. It saved them. 3 attackers were caught before they could get close. After a tense firefight, the rest of the bounty hunters retreated. Melting back into the trees, the squad regrouped, breathing heavily. Cole studied the girl for a long moment. "You've seen combat before," he said, not as a question, but as a fact. The girl just looked at him, her expression unreadable. They didn't sleep after that. Cole pushed them to keep moving through the night. The bounty meant they could never stay in one place for long. The forest eventually gave way to rolling hills, and with the first light of dawn, they could see smoke rising far behind them, proof their enemies were still on the trail. As they walked, Vega fell into step beside Harris, speaking in a low voice. "She's not just a runaway kid." "Harris," she said, "she's been trained. She knows tactics, terrain, and close combat. Kids don't learn that by accident." Harris nodded, glancing at the girl ahead of them. "Yeah. And if she's this dangerous at her age, imagine who her father must be." Later that day, they came across the remains of another squadronate human, but a mixed group of alien mercenaries. All of them were dead, their weapons gone. Cole knelt beside one of the bodies, noticing the twin star crest carved into the man's armor. It was the same symbol the girl had reacted 2 days ago when he looked back at her. She was already walking away, refusing to meet his gaze. By evening, they reached a narrow mountain pass. The wind howled between the rocks, carrying the distant sound of engines. "They're using hovercrafts now," Burke said grimly. "We can't outrun them forever." The girl finally spoke. "You don't need to outrun them. You need to disappear." Cole raised an eyebrow. "And how do we do that?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I know a place. But getting there will mean going straight through enemy territory." The squad exchanged uneasy glances. Trusting her could lead them into a trap or save their lives. Cole studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right. Lead the way," he said. The girl turned toward the jagged mountains ahead, her eyes narrowing with determination. The hunt was far from over, but now, for the first time, she wasn't just following them, she was guiding them, and deep down, Harris couldn't shake the feeling that she knew exactly where this was all leading, and that when they arrived, the truth about her father would no longer be something they could avoid. The path through the mountains was rough and narrow, sharp. Rocks jutted from the ground, and cold wind cut through their clothes. The alien girl led the way with quiet confidence. Every few steps, she would stop, scan the cliffs, and adjust their route. It was as if she knew every hidden trail in these dangerous peaks. By midday, the squad was exhausted. They stopped in a sheltered alcove to rest and check their wounds. Harris noticed the girl rubbing her side, moving stiffly. "You're hurt," he said. Kneeling beside her, she shook her head quickly. "I'm fine." But when he gently pulled her hand away, he saw a dark stain on her shirt. She had been bleeding for hours. Sergeant Cole called for the medic, Private Lorne. The medic knelt down, carefully cutting away the fabric to reveal a deep gash along her ribs. "It's bad," Lorne said. "She's lost a lot of blood. We need a transfusion." Burke shook his head. "She's not even human." "How do we know what blood type she has?" Lorne already had his scanner out. "This thing will tell us who's compatible," he said. Attaching a small pad to the girl's arm, The scanner beeped and processed the results. When the screen lit up, Lauren's eyes widened. "Sergeant?" he said slowly, "You need to see this." Cole stepped over, his brow furrowed. Lauren turned the screen so everyone could see. It says, "She's a partial genetic match to someone in this squad." The soldiers looked at each other in confusion. "That's impossible," Burke muttered. Lauren scrolled through the data and stopped. The name appeared in bold. Private Harrisol's eyes turned to him. Harris froze. "That can't be right," he said quickly. "I've never met her before in my life." The girl's gaze stayed locked on him, unreadable. Cole's voice was calm but firm. "The scanner doesn't lie." Harris shook his head. "Maybe it's a glitch. Or maybe they did something. Experiments. Cloning? I don't know." Lauren cleared his throat, regardless of how. "You're the only one here who can donate safely." Cole gave a short nod, "Then do it." Harris hesitated. Looking at the girl, "Will you be okay with this?" "Ah," he asked her. For the first time, she gave him a small nod. "I trust you." She said quietly. The transfusion began. Harris sat beside her, the tubing connecting them. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the sound of the wind outside and the hum of the medical kit filled the air. Then, softly, the girl asked, "Do you believe in fate?" Harris blinked. "I believe in bad luck," he said, with a faint smile. She didn't smile back. "My father. He believed that people were connected for a reason." She murmured, "Maybe you were meant to find me." Harris wanted to ask more, but Lauren interrupted. "All right, that's enough." She lived. The squad packed up quickly, but the atmosphere was different now. Every soldier was thinking the same thing if Harris shared blood with her. Then the mystery around her father just became much more complicated. They moved through the mountain pass until nightfall. When they camped, Harris sat alone. Staring into the dark, Vega joined him, speaking in a low voice. "You think she's your daughter?" Harris laughed quietly. "No, that's not possible." "Then what?" Vega pressed. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I'm starting to think that whatever happened before this war, we were all kept in the dark." Elsewhere, the girl sat with Cole, her knees pulled to her chest. "Why is everyone looking at me differently now?" she asked softly. Cole studied her for a long moment. "Because your existence doesn't make sense," he said. "Not unless someone broke a lot of rules to make it happen." She lowered her eyes. "My father broke many rules before Cole could ask more." A faint rumble echoed through the mountains. Burke scanned the area, his face tightening hovercrafts. "Multiple, closing fast." Cole swore under his breath. "They must have tracked us." The squad grabbed their gear and moved out, following the girl as she led them down a steep, hidden trail. The engines grew louder, bouncing off the rocky walls as they reached a lower valley. A flash of light lit the sky. A targeted strike hit the ridge they had been on minutes earlier, sending debris crashing down. The girl didn't look back. "They won't stop," she said, her voice steady. "Not until they have me. Or I'm dead." Harris glanced at her, a knot forming in his chest for the first time. He wasn't just protecting her because she was a child. He was protecting her because something in his own blood tied him to her fate. And deep down, he knew that finding out why might be more dangerous than any enemy chasing them. The squad pushed on through the narrow valley. The hovercraft engines behind them grew fainter, but no one relaxed. The alien girl led the way, her silver eyes scanning every rock and shadow. Harris kept close to her, his thoughts still tangled in the DNA match they had discovered. If she really shared his blood, then her father's identity might not be the only secret here. By the afternoon, they reached a stretch of ground littered with scorched metal. It looked like an old battlefield, long abandoned. Weapons stuck out of the dirt like the bones of dead soldiers. The girl slowed, her gaze fixed on a large wreck at the far side. Cole noticed, "You know this place." She nodded slightly. My father fought here. Before Cole could ask more, Burke gave a sharp warning. Contacts ahead, shapes emerged from the haze-armored alien soldiers escorting a single prisoner. The prisoner was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore the tattered uniform of a high-ranking alien commander. His hands were bound, but his eyes burned with a strange calm. The alien soldiers spotted the squad and raised their weapons. Cole's team reacted instantly, taking cover and firing back. The fight was quick and brutal. The humans had better positioning, and the enemy fell one by one. When the dust cleared, the commander still stood. Watching them silently, the girl stepped forward, ignoring Cole's warning. She stopped only a few feet away from the prisoner, her pendant glowing faintly under her shirt. You came, the commander said in the alien tongue, his deep voice carrying through the still air. I told you I would, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. Harris exchanged a look with Cole. This was the first time they had heard her speak so openly in her own language. Cole stepped forward. You know her? The commander's sharp eyes turned to him. She is the daughter of the Peacemaker, he said in accented human speech. Vega frowned. The Peacemaker? That's a myth. A ghost story soldiers tell in the barracks. The commander shook his head slowly. No myth. A man who ended battles without firing a shot. A man who united humans and aliens against the warlords. Harris felt a chill run down his spine. The commander continued. And he was human. The squad went silent. The girl's voice was soft but steady. My father was a soldier. Like you, she said, looking at Harris. He fought to make peace, but it made him enemies on every side. Cole narrowed his eyes. If that's true, why is she being hunted? The commander's expression hardened because her existence proves the alliance was real. If she lives, the truth will spread and the warlords will lose their power. He looked directly at Harris, and because her blood carries both human and alien heritage, she is a symbol they fear. Harris stepped forward, his voice low. Why did the scanner say, I'm a genetic match? The commander studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. Because your DNA was taken during the war, used to save the Peacemaker's life when he was gravely wounded. The same blood that kept him alive runs in her. The weight of his words settled over the group. The girl's gaze didn't leave Harris. That's why I trust you, she whispered. You carry my father's strength. Before they could process the truth, Burke's come. Unit crackled with the warning. Enemy forces were inbound. Cole made a quick decision. We can't take the commander with us, but we can't leave him for them either. The commander smiled faintly. Do not worry about me. My path is ending. Hers is just beginning. He looked at the girl one last time. Run, daughter of the Peacemaker. Live, and one day the galaxy will know. The squad left quickly. The girl leading them through a hidden ravine she seemed to know well. As they moved, Harris kept replaying the words in his mind. Daughter of the Peacemaker. Part of him still couldn't believe it, but another part? The part that had felt the strange connection since the day they met, knew it was true. By nightfall, they had put distance between themselves and the battlefield. The squad camped in silence, each soldier lost in their own thoughts. The girl sat by the fire, staring into the flames. When Harris sat beside her, she didn't look away. You believe me now? She asked softly. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I believe you. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, but her eyes still held the weight of the truth. A truth that had made her the most hunted child in the galaxy. Asterisk, the night after the meeting with the alien commander was colder than usual. The wind whistled through the jagged rocks, carrying the distant sound of engines. The squad sat in a small circle around a low, flickering fire, each soldier lost in their own thoughts. The alien girl sat quietly, her pendant resting against her chest, its faint glow hidden beneath her torn clothes. Sergeant Cole had been silent. For hours, he was thinking about the commander's words, the truth about her father, the peacemaker, and the danger she represented to every side in the war. If they brought her back to human command, she would be used as a political weapon. If they left her on her own, the bounty hunters would find her within days. Cole finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "We have two options," he said. "We take her to command, or we protect her ourselves." Vega frowned. "You know what command will do? Lock her away, parade her when it benefits them. Maybe worse." Burke shifted uncomfortably. "If we keep her, we're going against direct orders. That makes us deserters." Harris glanced at the girl, then back at Cole. "If being deserters means keeping her alive, I'm in." The girl's silver eyes moved from one soldier to another, reading their faces. "You don't have to risk yourselves for me," she said quietly. Cole shook his head. "It's not about having to. It's about choosing to." They broke camp before sunrise. Cole led them away from the path that would take them to the nearest human base. Instead, they headed toward the mountains on the far horizon, where rumors spoke of a hidden human colony far from the war, if they could reach it. She might have a chance to live without being hunted every day. The journey was long and dangerous. Enemy patrols still searched the valleys, and bounty hunters moved in small, fast groups. Twice they had to hide for hours while gunships passed. Overhead, through it all, the girl never complained, never slowed down. It was as if she knew this was her last chance for freedom. On the third day, they reached a narrow pass. The air was thin here, the ground covered in frost. Cole motioned for silence, and the squad crept forward. That was when they saw them 3 enemy hovercrafts blocking the way, their weapons trained on the path ahead. A voice called out through a loudspeaker in the alien language. Harris looked to the girl, who translated in a whisper, "They're telling you to hand me over. They promised to let you live." Cole looked at his squad, then back at the girl. "Get ready," he said simply. The fight that followed was short but fierce. The squad used the terrain to their advantage, taking out the hovercraft gunners before they could fully react. The girl stayed behind cover, but her eyes never left Harris when it was over. The ground was littered with the wreckage of the alien machines, and the pass was clear. By evening, they were within sight of the hidden colony. It was built into the side of a cliff, its entrances disguised as part of the rock. Harris could see faint lights in the windows for the first time in days. Hope stirred in the squad, but before they could reach it, Cole stopped them. "This is it," he said, looking at the girl. "Once we take you inside, we may never see you again. You'll be safe, but you'll have to live in the shadows." She looked up at him, her voice steady. "I've lived in the shadows my whole life. But now, I won't be hiding because I'm afraid. I'll be hiding because you gave me the chance to live." They walked the last stretch together, the cold air biting at their skin. When they reached the gates, a group of human settlers came out to meet them, their faces wary but curious. Cole explained little, only that the girl needed protection and could not be named. The settlers agreed to take her in, but on one condition: no one could know where she was, not even other human forces, before she went inside. The girl turned to face the squad. Her eyes lingered on Harris. "You're part of me now," she said softly. "Not because of blood, but because you chose me when no one else would." Harris swallowed hard, his voice thick. "Stay alive, kid. That's all I ask." She smiled faintly, then disappeared into the shadows of the colony's gate. The squad stood in silence for a moment. Cole finally turned away. "We need to move before someone follows our trail," as they headed back into the wilderness. Harris glanced over his shoulder one last time. Somewhere behind those hidden walls, the daughter of the peacemaker was safe for now. And the secret of her father's identity remained exactly where it belonged, hidden from the war.